Well, we want to first welcome each and every one of you to our 2025 virtual insurance town hall. As you know, I'm Assemblymember Dawn Addis, and we had close to 250 people register for this virtual town hall, and many more who are watching live through our Facebook, and we'll have this posted on our website. And just want to say, first and foremost, a thank you to our guest speakers that are going to be with us tonight. We have Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara. We have Amy Bach, the Executive Director of United Policyholders. And then we will end the evening with the California Fire Marshal, Daniel Berlant. And I want to say a deep thank you to the 5,000 plus personnel from across the state and many other places that are battling the Giffords fire here in San Luis Obispo County. They've been fighting since October 1st, and since August 1st, and they continue to fight. And we're all here tonight because we understand the pain and the uncertainty that is caused by natural disaster firsthand. I started my tenure in the legislature with what people called trial by flood. And I'll never forget the 2023 atmospheric rivers when we were inundated across the Central Coast, and myself and staff from our team put on rain boots and literally walked with a homeowner through their living room. There was still flooding coming in. You could see their children, stuffed animals floating across their house, and the pain and despair of not knowing if they were going to be able to rebuild because of finances. They didn't know how that was going to turn out. And 2 years later, January 2025, I was sitting at dinner with a colleague whose phone started buzzing, and he started receiving word of potential evacuations that were getting closer and closer to his home and his family's homes in the LA area. And the, pain and anxiety that caused when you don't know what's happening during these natural disasters and how you're going to finance the recovery. And today, of course, we're facing the Gifford fire. It's the largest California fire that we have. It's been burning since August 1st. It's about 33% contained now, but over 125,000 acres, this fire. And as I mentioned, the 5,000 personnel that are out there, and we thank them. But we also know that it's worrisome for people how we're going to continue to move through these disasters and how insurance is going to recover and help people moving forward in the state of California. It's certainly an issue that our office hears about weekly, if not daily. And we know that in California, we have to act, and we have been acting. I'll start by talking about the insurance committee that I am a part of. I'm one of the members. We've had at least 5 different hearings to cover the sustainable insurance strategy that our commissioner is going to talk about, as well as issues around underinsurance. I'm also the inaugural chair of the Central Coast Caucus. We've had special briefings specific to insurance in our region. Also, the Prop 4 climate bond that voters passed by historic margins. And I was part of that working group, and we made sure that 40% of the funds go to ensuring fire protection resources reach the most vulnerable. I'll mention the cap and trade working group, where we are working on market mechanisms to lower carbon output, which we know is a huge problem as we face wildfires across our state. And then the National Conference of State Legislatures. I sit on the Natural Resources, Energy, and Environment Committee, where I led a resolution asking the federal government to continue funding disaster response. I will also mention huge budget allocations this year, $2.5 billion to support recovery efforts after the LA wildfires, and then meeting with local insurance agents across the Central Coast to understand the challenges in our district. And of course, sharing concerns directly that I've heard from you, sharing those directly with Commissioner Lara. So all of this activity led us to hold the town hall tonight to share with each and every one of you what the state of California is doing what's happening with the sustainable insurance strategy, how we can bring insurers back to our state, if homeowners insurance will ever be affordable again, what's happening with underinsurance, what to do if your insurance gets canceled, and how to make your home safer from wildfire. We're going to cover those 5 things in a very short hour. And so I'm going to jump right in and introduce our first guest, Commissioner Lara, our insurance commissioner, who's just doing a phenomenal job. Before we went live, we were talking about how the commissioner probably has one of the toughest jobs in the state right now. So it's my pleasure to introduce Commissioner Lara, who will provide an update on his latest efforts to address the insurance crisis in California. And I'll note that Commissioner Lara previously had a job like mine in the state legislature, first in the Assembly and then in the state Senate. And so he understands what it takes for us to pass policy legislation that is going to help each and every one of you. And then the commissioner was elected commissioner in 2018. Commissioner, I did want to ask, just because we're in the midst of the Gifford fire, before you jump into the sustainable insurance strategy, if there's anything that you wanted to say to residents who are forced to evacuate during the Gifford fire, if there's anything they should be thinking about on the insurance front. And then you'll have about 10 minutes to present and about 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to go as quickly as possible and try to cover a lot. But again, Assemblymember, thank you. Assemblymember Addis, thank you for your leadership. I was listening to your story, and in 2019, when I came on as insurance commissioner, we had the Paradise Fire. So my entire tenure has been trial by fire. This is now my 121st fire since I came on, coupled with and a couple earthquakes and countless floods as well. But thank you for having me speak today. I wanna talk to you about a couple things. But again, this is not hypothetical for us. The Giffords fire, as you rightfully said, has grown already to a couple 100,000 acres. But before I give the updates I have for you, I want to take you a moment to remind homeowners and businesses and our renters that when our firefighters say it's time to evacuate, you need to go. Cost should not be an obstacle. So if you have been evacuated, you should contact your insurance agent to find out what your renters or homeowners policy covers and other resources that may be available to you while the mandatory evacuation order is in place. So it's not just about what happens to you after you evacuate, it's what you could do before you evacuate, which also matters a lot. So we have all these tips on our website. You can call our number. In the aftermath of the LA wildfires, researchers went through the ruins to find out too that what could make a difference. And so if you are potentially if you're like on hold right now and you haven't been evacuated, one of the things that made a difference, as we were talking to IBHS, one of the biggest cause of whether your house caught on fire or not was your plastic trash can bins and jacuzzis that were close to the home. That free plastic bin that you get from the city or county, it could be a house killer. So when you get these warning to evacuate, move anything flammable at least 5 feet away from your home. That could, that's going to save a firefighter's time when they come to your home. It could just, and it could possibly save your home. So that was one of the things that through the IBHS research was just, if you could do that now, if you're under an evacuation warning, just start moving stuff 5 feet away from your home. If you have one of those jacuzzis, just try to move it. Those trash bins, everything that's in that trash bin can be used to ignite. Fire goes up and then it catches into your roof. That was something really interesting that we just learned every time we go to one of these fire demonstrations. Also, and start taking pictures of all your valuables, your vehicle, your furniture, your appliances. you have a phone, start uploading all of that to your web, pictures of your policy, all key documents that you might have. Even if you have them with you, just take pictures and load that up to the web, because you might not know, in the hustle and bustle of things, you might misplace that. You can, once you obtain, once you're in a hotel or in a family house or a friend's house, you can easily print that out somewhere. Also remember, keep all your receipts during your evacuation. Take pictures, like I said. Download your insurance policy with all your coverages so it's easy to find, and start any insurance diary. Anytime you talk to an insurance company representative, you speak with anything regarding your insurance, just start having all that recorded, have that diary going. I want evacuees to know that additional living expense coverage can be available to help you, again, with the stress and financial burden of mandatory evacuations. What does all this mumbo jumbo mean? Insurance can help pay extra food, housing, any other costs while you're out of your home. So keep all your receipts. If you have any questions or need assistance, call our Department of Insurance at 1-800-927-4357. We have folks that are live on the phone Monday through Friday. We speak multiple languages. We have experts that are waiting just to hear from you, and we can help walk you through this. If you have access to the internet, you can go on insurance.ca.gov. We can get those tips for you immediately. So once firefighters reach containment, my focus is making sure that our wildfire survivors get the insurance benefits you're entitled to, and that we get them as soon as possible. So also, we're fighting for reforms that will make insurance more available and accessible to consumers. And again, that we're holding all the insurance companies accountable, and that we get every dollar that's owed to you. Recovery is never easy. You're going to hear all of this from somebody who is much more knowledgeable, and that is an expert, which is Amy Bach. So I'm going to leave her to handle all of this, and she could get this done much better than I am. Back in July, at the Assemblymember Addis talked about, I testified before the Assembly Insurance Committee, where we talked about our sustainable insurance strategy. That essentially is our solution to get us out of this insurance crisis that we've been living through. We know that consumers in California don't have any availability for affordable insurance. And the reality is that insurance companies have been, curtailing the availability of insurance already since 2017, because these wildfires have been not only much more voracious, but they have been coming sooner and sooner. And so we no longer have a wildfire season. I mean, as you've seen, we've had some of the most expensive wildfires in US history now in January. So my mission is simple. Consumers must have real choices. Our goal is to rebuild our sustainable insurance to make it competitive in the market, and make sure that insurance companies are not leaving the state. An insurance market where Californians can protect their homes and their lives, and that they've worked so hard to rebuild. And so currently, for the past 30 years, under Prop 103, which kind of governs our insurance regulatory scheme, insurance companies have no requirement, zero legal regulatory obligation, none, to write policies where wildfire distress areas are, which are a big portion are currently in Assemblymember Addis' district. The system isn't working, and it hasn't been working for decades. This is why we are building a different path. So we just can't talk about affordability without first addressing the availability. You can't afford what doesn't exist. It's unrealistic and it's dishonest to promise that prices will go down overnight. But we are building a system where people can pay for coverage that they can actually get, and not just being pushed to the FAIR plan, which many of you have, which is higher premiums with limited protections. So what we are doing about it is, so we're focused on increasing availability of insurance in San Luis Obispo and across the entire state. So we have been making major changes, and here are the reforms that we are implementing. We are implementing new catastrophe modeling tools that reward risk mitigation, home hardening, and resilience. What does this mean? That for California, we are the only state that doesn't allow insurance companies to use forward-looking models to help us understand how these catastrophes are behaving like wildfires. Other states have been allowing companies to use these models. We haven't. We have been relying on historic data. We know that that is no longer adequate, and we can no longer price insurance this way. We're also streamlining rate filing reviews with more accurate accountability and more transparency. And we're also looking at forward-looking data that rewards for the first time wildfire safety actions. We've heard from so many consumers, well, I've done everything. I spent thousands of dollars to harden my home and I get nothing back. I still get dropped. So now for the first time, that is going to be figured into your rate because of these catastrophe models. We'll be able to keep insurance companies accountable to make sure that your rate reflects the home hardening that you're doing. We're modernizing the FAIR plan so it doesn't keep growing as a shadow system and a drag on our home market. We're also allowing for reinsurance to be considered into factored into the rate making. Again, something that California would have never allowed. Other states allow for this. And we're not just rebuilding an insurance market, we're rebuilding the trust. We are working to ensure that no consumer is left behind because of their zip code, their roof type, or what type of community they live in. So insurance companies have been asking us, we need these two tools, reinsurance and the use of catastrophe models. And so then I turned around, if I give you these two things, what do consumers get? And this is critical that you understand this, because let's say Colorado allows for the insurance companies to use cat models and reinsurance, and they get no guarantee that consumers are going to get more options from insurance companies. California does not do that. Through our historic agreement, if they want to use these two tools, they have to guarantee that they're going to go back into San Luis Obispo. One, they have to provide you a policy, and they have to depopulate the FAIR plan. So if your home is in the FAIR plan, they have to take you out and offer you a policy in the admitted traditional market. And we're going to be tracking that because thanks to Assemblymember Addis's leadership, they gave us a budget to modernize our technology in the department to help track that for the first time. So I'm going to be able to tell Assemblymember Addis, okay, by zip code and by your county, I'm going to be able to tell you how many homes have been taken out of the FAIR plan in your county, and how many of those are getting insurance in the traditional market for the first time ever. And if an insurance company, because I know many of you are thinking, because I have to trust but verify, if an insurance company says, okay, we commit to using these two tools, and if they somehow fall back, I can hold them legally accountable under this agreement. This is a historic agreement that no other state has been able to accomplish anywhere. And this is really a historic accomplishment. So where are we now? By allowing the use of technology and gaining this guaranteed covering in the most vulnerable areas, we're really addressing both consumer needs and increasing the availability of insurance coverage statewide. We can only get affordable insurance by making it more available statewide. So Mercury Insurance, Allstate, CSAA were the first to respond that they plan to make filings with more expected from other insurers. And again, by making insurance more available and by prioritizing wildfire safety, now we are bringing down the cost of insurance, and over time it's going to happen. Insurance companies cannot abandon wildfire distress areas no more like they've been doing under the current rules. And that is the foundation for stability that homeowners and businesses want and deserve. And so again, those are the cornerstones of the sustainable and affordable insurance market that we are moving in that direction. I just want to quickly go through a couple bills that Assemblymember Addis is working with us to protect consumers, hold insurance companies more accountable, that have come really out of all these devastating fires. We have AB 888 by our chairwoman, Lisa Calderon, that we want to continue to incentivize homeowners to fortify their homes, and that is helping them pay for the most expensive part, which is fortifying the roof. against wildfires. And so this would put state tax-free funds to assist residents in purchasing fire-rated roofs and creating non-ignition zones around their properties. We are literally, I wish I could take credit for this. I stole this straight from Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, and South Carolina, where they have been doing this already for 10 plus years against hurricanes. And they just did an audit where they've clearly demonstrated that the money that they've given people has shown a decrease in their insurance by 30%. So in each home that they've been able to fortify, the consumer has saved 30% on their insurance bill and have been able to keep their insurance. We're doing SB 547, which would create our Wildfire Safety and Recovery Act, which provides crucial protection for millions of homeowners. And we have our Fair and Transparent Insurance Act by Assemblymember John Harabidian, which we learned from the LA fires, where you've seen all these crazy ads on social media. This was new for us, and trying to confuse consumers around, and it establishes a 15% cap on adjusters, to make sure that you're not being gouged by these adjusters that come out from other states. And we are authoring SB 495. We'll give you all this list. Senator Addis' office has these by Senator Allen, that would eliminate the list for wildfire survivors. That, this is a horrible, horrible list that is required by the insurance companies that wildfire survivors have to provide in order to get reimbursed. That should not happen. Again, these are all to us, just more bills to protect our consumers so they don't have to deal with, all these issues around, and gives you some dignity and grace as you recover from these devastating wildfires. Again, just want to thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm trying to go as fast as I can, but we're here to help. Call us at 1-800-927-4357. You can visit us at insurance.ca.gov. We want to do our part to help you prepare and address your concerns. You can reach us at again, Monday through Friday, not just around property and casualty. Again, if you have any health, life questions around insurance, our experts are here to help you understand your policy. We know these things are complicated. Amy can help. Again, she's an expert at this, and her organization does fantastic work. So I'll just end it here, and we'll happy to take any questions.
No, I really want to thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for going over the pieces of legislation. I know that I voted for each and every one of those because I believe that they're going to make a change for everyone that's on this meeting this evening and for all Californians. I know you're doing one other thing because we've talked about it numerous times, which is you're starting to delve into the underinsurance issue.
Oh, yes.
And just was going to ask, we have about a minute and a half left. If you could talk about your efforts when it comes, number one, what is underinsurance? Number two, what are your efforts in terms of the underinsurance issue?
Absolutely. Underinsurance, which we, after every major disaster, a couple things are happening, and thank you for really highlighting this issue, Assemblymember. Couple things we realize: consumers don't know, one, that they're underinsured, which meaning that they don't have the proper coverage to properly replace their home to the standard of living that they currently have, which either could be that they haven't informed their agent or their broker of any renovations that they've made, and that goes both ways, right? Or that the insurance company has denied them the ability to get more insurance to properly cover them. And that could be flood, earthquake. And so that's something that actually we've been seeing around the entire western part of the United States around wildfire. And so we are currently studying underinsurance through complaints from homeowners and a market conduct exam, which is a market conduct exam is an examination that we do on insurers after major wildfires. So, and this is something that actually Senator Addis brought to my attention, so that we're looking at, as we mentioned earlier, we're also working with other states. So the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, which we are part of, our Western Zone region, which is made up the western half of the United States, we have the insurance commissioners from New Mexico, Oregon, Colorado, and Washington, we got together and we realized, wait a minute, this is happening in all our states as well. And so we created a working group, and the working group is looking at underinsurance. Specifically, the working group is examining underinsurance after all these major wildfires and trying to help us understand. We call underinsurance a major gap and a coverage gap, and trying to figure out what types and steps we can take to close this insurance gap in the future. So one example of what we did in California to close a protection gap, for say, is where we, like for example, in 2021, we required all policies to have building code upgrade coverage, for example, right, to close that protection gap. And so what we're looking at is where are the current coverage gaps lacking, like underinsurance, and how can we fix that? And one of the things we're looking at, Assemblymember, is, so for example, let's take Santa Cruz, right? And if either insurance companies aren't willing to sell you more insurance, okay, how about if we allow the county to enter into a parametric product to be able to provide a certain coverage of limit for all the residents in the county to make up for that coverage loss, so that everybody gets full coverage. And so then it democratizes the coverage for everyone, right? So then everybody gets that coverage. So we've seen this happen in other countries as to democratize the rates. And so then it also brings down the cost, and it democratizes the risk for everybody. So that's one of the innovations that we're looking at, to be able to close that protection gap and that coverage gap. So we have these 5 states coming together to look at that, to come up with some policy recommendations, regulatory recommendations. So stay tuned. We might be coming back to you with some policy ideas.
Well, I look forward to it, and thank you so much, Commissioner. And I want to remind each of you that the Commissioner shared his email as well as the customer service line in multiple languages, and we'll share that information out again. And it's just been so important that you've been willing to spend your time with us. I understand that you were supposed to be at a conference and stayed in California because of the fires that are happening right now, and just really want to appreciate how dedicated you have been, and your presence here with us this evening. And we're going to move on. I'll say thank you, Commissioner. You're welcome to stay as long as you're able, but I know how busy you are. We're going to move on to Amy Bach, and we're just so fortunate to have Amy with us tonight. Amy has been since 1985, a professional insurance consumer advocate. She co-founded United Policyholders in 1991 and serves as the organization's executive director. United Policyholders is a nonprofit whose mission is to be a trustworthy resource for each of you that joined us here tonight, and a respected voice for consumers of all types of insurance across the United States. So Amy, we've got about 10 minutes for you to present, and then about 5 minutes for questions. And we're just so glad that you're here this evening with us.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. It's my pleasure to be here. And, just to pick up on a couple things that the commissioner said, we will, I'm here to give you the straight scoop from a nonprofit that doesn't take money from insurance companies, but knows a lot about insurance. And for over 3 decades, we've been putting together tips for making sure that you have the right insurance, that you take those steps to be in a position to be resilient if, God forbid, something comes along and damages or destroys your home, but then also be empowered to be able to be treated fairly if you have to file a claim. And so that's where we are coming from, and our website is a resource for you. So I'm going to go through a couple of reality checks about where the market is right now for you as a property owner. You heard the commissioner talk about a couple of things that are really important. Making an inventory. Take your cell phone, walk around your house, and narrate as you go. Here's my living room set. Here's my bedroom set. Open up the drawers, and then send that video off. That is really important. And certainly also, as he said, if you get that evacuation order, get out. But a lot of the people on my team went through losing a home in a wildfire. And so then they became volunteers. Some of them have joined our staff. And a lot of them have a lot of really good tips. One of which is always, have a go bag, and a lot of kind of mental health strategies. So just know, hopefully you will never need us, but if you do, our organization has a lot to offer. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about where you might be with your own insurance right now, and just sort of cover a couple of basics, right? So we are in a very strange time. We've never been in this is unprecedented. It's a seller's market, meaning the us as buyers are not in the driver's seat, right? Options are few, prices are high. Insurers are being much pickier, rejecting customers with homes, older roofs, galvanized pipes, trees around you. A lot of people are having to turn to the Fair Plan or a company they've never heard of, which is called a non-admitted or surplus line. But I'm here to tell you, as somebody who's deep in the trenches in LA and Ventura with the two wildfires, and all the work we're doing to help people recover, it is so important to avoid underinsuring your home. You heard the commissioner talk about it. Just to cut to the absolute bottom line, you want to try to have your dwelling coverage be reasonably accurate for the local conditions. And then you want to buy not just more than the minimum building code coverage, but you also want to ask your agent or your insurer for what's called extended replacement. So let me just go through, why is the market so funky right now? But just to remind you, don't underinsure your home, even though the market is so challenging and prices are so high, right? So insurers are using new tech tools to keep or reject customers. So risk scores, like a credit score, aerial images, data mining. And then we also have inflation, which started around COVID, and it just hasn't stopped, right? The what insurers are paying for their insurance at the really high risk levels is unregulated, so that's gotten very expensive. And as you heard the commissioners say, insurance companies have been frustrated with how long it's been taking them to get their rate increases approved. And so they, in some ways, have been kind of on strike somewhat. But that hopefully is going to be improving. And then the inconvenient truth that we are all having to live with, that increased risk due to drought and wind conditions associated with climate change is a reality, especially for people living near wildland urban interface areas. Aerial photos, pretty much almost all insurers are now buying them. So they're paying these companies, they take pictures from the air, they see conditions they don't like, and that can lead to a non-renewal. Again, another new thing, you now have not just a credit score, but a risk score. So because this was kind of a new thing and it's really hurting you as a consumer, the DOI, Commissioner Lara's agency, did put a regulation in place that says that you can ask your insurance company if they tell you they're not going to keep you as a customer, ask them what your risk score is, and then if you feel like it's unfair, they're supposed to give you an appeal process, and that's the toll-free number for the department to get more information on that. So what are the rules if they want to drop you when your policy comes up? 75 days notice, and they can non-renew you. Now there are some non-renewal moratoriums in place, and I'm not aware whether or not there is currently one in your area, but you can easily find that out by going to the Department of Insurance's website and putting your zip code in. All right. You should be getting rewards now for creating clear space, 5 feet around your home, and complying with one of two sets of standards: safer from wildfires or the wildfire prepared home standards. Chief Berlant may go into that a little bit more when he talks. The FAIR Plan is still your last resort. They have to offer you up to $3 million in coverage, but it's very bare bones. So if you do get dropped, start shopping right away. Ask about your risk score. Try to find a really good proactive agent that's not drowning their sorrows in the local tavern, but is actually combing the market to find options for you, right? If the FAIR Plan's your only choice, keep shopping even after you put that coverage in place. But this is really important. Be prepared to make risk reduction home improvements. That is what insurance companies want to see. Now that insurers are getting a lot of what they said they needed through the regulatory process, we should start to see availability improve, right? And you heard about the regulation that the commissioner has put into place that if people in distressed areas, and a lot of your areas are, meaning insurance is very hard to come by right now, there may be some relief for you under the new regulations. But really, we need to restore insurers' confidence in insuring homes by having people show them, yeah, okay, I'm going to do my part to make my home less likely to be damaged or destroyed, right? Just super important. So if your area that you live in is not fire wise or doesn't have a fire safe council, volunteer. Try to help make that happen. Okay. And if the fire department comes along around and says you got to clear your brush, do it. So because everybody's in agreement, there are ways to prevent homes from being damaged and destroyed, but it takes some action. We're seeing some progress, right? Of course, I'm a consumer advocate. I want to see you get discounts. I want to see you get rewarded for putting time and money into home improvements to reduce risk, right? So we're seeing a little bit of progress. These are a couple of the insurers that are starting to really reward people. They're rewarding people in Paradise, where the campfire was. They're rewarding people who do those things. So if you want to know, well, where do I get help on what do I need to do to my house to make it qualify for better insurance options and pricing, you can go to United Policyholders Wildfire Risk Reduction Asset Protection WRAP, it stands for, Resource Center. Go to your county's page, and then you'll see if there's programs in your area, if there are grants. There's 4 types of insurance companies. The ones you know, the ones you've never heard of, the FAIR Plan, and the ones that your mortgage company will slap on if you don't keep insurance in place. This is just a basic on the FAIR Plan. If you only buy the FAIR Plan, you're going to not have any coverage for water damage, theft, or liability, or if somebody sues you. So you can buy these supplementals. There are a few options you can add with the FAIR Plan. And, I was talking earlier about this replacement cost coverage or extended. If you ask for a quote to add some of these riders, they actually can be very affordable and they will give you a lot of extra coverage. So when all these people that we're working with in LA, the people that bought the extended coverages are doing a lot better. They're a lot less underinsured. So just a few more affordability strategies before I wrap up. Find out what discounts are available. Ask for those you qualify for. Bundle your car and auto with one insurer if you can. Again, work with that proactive agent that's on the case. It's tough out there, but if they're really, if they're really working hard, they may be able to find you options that are coming on new. Raise your deductible. 5,000 if you can stomach it, 10,000. That will reduce your premium and you'll be less likely to file those small claims that go on your record and hurt your score, right? Look into how reducing or eliminating coverage you could live without might bring your premium down. Mitigate, harden your home, create that defensible space, give the documentation to your insurer that you did these things. Don't file small claims. Pay them out of pocket, even though I hate to say to people, don't use the product you're paying for. It's just a savvy consumer strategy in this day and age. So please do take a few minutes to go to this URL, uphelp.org/CA home survey, and take our survey, because we work very closely with Commissioner Lara's agency and a lot of other partners around the state. But we are trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what is really happening out there and who's getting dropped and who's picking you up. And we really appreciate you giving us information so that we can help you. This is a link for you to the shopping help page of our website and all the resources that we offer to help you get through this. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to answer any questions if we have time. But otherwise, stay safe and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Amy. We do have time for one brief question. I wanted to ask it though, because it came directly from a constituent of ours. And I represent a lot of people who live in mobile homes across the Central Coast.
Yes.
Mobile homes have traditionally been thought of as affordable housing, but you also have a lot of people who live at the coast in mobile homes because it's beautiful weather. Traditionally, we've had the kind of weather that it is safe to live in a mobile home, or it has been safe to live in a mobile home. We're starting to see some changes there. And so the question from our constituent is, what steps can mobile home owners take to help mitigate potential loss of insurance?
Well, one of the important things is to have your unit be secured to a foundation, which isn't possible for everybody. But I think, again, that's insurers are looking for those those conditions that give them confidence that this structure is not going to get blown away, or now the market for manufactured home or mobile home insurance has not been that great, meaning choices are limited. But I think, doing your homework, there's not that many options. I think, there is a bill, I think, to make it possible for people to get insurance through the FAIR Plan if they have a manufactured home, because it can be tough. It's tough out there. But again, if there's a way for you to be able to secure your home to the foundation, and then also to and I don't know if they make straps, for that go over the roof. I know they make roof tie downs in areas where there are wind issues. But in having sandbags so that if there's heavy rain, that the rain doesn't come into your unit. Those are some of the strategies. And then, just shop as well as you can. And now I know it's tough.
Well, thank you so much. We very much appreciate your time. We know that you two were at a number of different conferences and have taken some time out to be with us here on the Central Coast, and really appreciate it. And we'll be sharing out your website as well. I was taking notes. Truth be told, I was taking notes as you were talking because I know some of this is things that I'm going to need to go back and call my carrier and ask them a few questions about. So you are absolutely welcome to stay. We're gonna, but we understand if you're not able to. We're gonna move on.
I want to hear Chief Berlin.
Exactly. I know everybody wants to hear from the fire marshal. We have now Chief Berlant. So he is last but not least the fire marshal, Daniel Berlant, who was appointed by Governor Newsom in 2023, but actually began his career with CAL FIRE as a volunteer in 2001, was then hired in 2002, and has worked in numerous roles across the past couple of decades, and is going to show all of us how we can better protect our homes and communities by taking proactive home hardening steps. And Chief, we have about 10 minutes for you to present, and then we may have time for one or two questions.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you so much, Assemblymember, for inviting me. First, a quick update. The Gifford fire, as of this evening, now 41% contained. So our crews are making some really good progress on that fire. Obviously, a lot of work still to be done with how large that fire is, but just a quick update. And I'll drop a link if you're not tracking on our website where you can get the latest information. We pulled together information from the Forest Service and Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo County Fire, CAL FIRE, all in one place with resources should you be impacted by that fire. But as my colleagues have already said, and Assembly members, the Central Coast, California, has been impacted by wildfires more than ever. But there is a lot of bad stats. I could tell you how many homes have been destroyed in the last decade, how many more massive wildfires we have been experiencing. But I want to focus in on what we all as Californians can do to prepare ourselves and our communities for wildfires. Both the Commissioner and Executive Director Bach have given some really great resources, but I'm going to share my screen here and just talk just a little bit about some of the work that we are doing at CAL FIRE and at the state of California to ensure that we are focused on preparing communities for wildfires. Really, our strategy is threefold. We are focused on fire response. We've doubled the number of firefighters in the last 5 years, added additional equipment, our Firehawks, our C-130s, additional technology, but we're not going to respond our way out of this crisis. And so community hardening, defensible space home hardening, which I'll talk about here in just a moment, as well as forest health, forest management. Some of these things have been in the news, the politics about raking our forests. And the truth is we need to do all of these things. And we are doing all of these things. The state and the governor and the legislature, again, thank you, Assemblymember, have invested billions in this space. But again, tonight I'm going to really focus in on community preparedness. But here's an unfortunate fact. Homes that ignite by wildfires have a 90% chance of being completely destroyed. And so that staggering stat tells us that we have to make sure that homes are hardened, that there's nothing flammable right on around them to prevent them from igniting in the first place. Because again, the stat tells us that if they catch fire, they're almost likely to be completely destroyed. So we really look at community preparedness in kind of three phases. First, home hardening at the home itself. Home hardening is either constructing, building, or retrofitting your home with ignition resistant or ember resistant building materials. When it comes to a wildfire, we really look at understanding the risk in being threatened in three different ways. Direct flame, meaning this is typically where the wildfire burns into your neighborhood. And so that is where defensible space comes into play. I'll talk about that. Radiant heat, this is typically from your nearby objects that are burning. It could be a neighbor's home, it could be a car, and that radiant heat adds enough that it can bust, whether it be the windows or other materials, and start a fire. And then thirdly, and again, the focus here in home hardening is really from flying embers. Embers are particularly destructive and actually are really the root of a majority of our homes that are being destroyed by wildfires. And they can be carried in the wind up to a mile away. And so there are some really important tips that you can do around your home. This is a picture of a home. This is from the Paradise Fire. So you'll note that there's not a lot of landscaping yet in this home, but you can see that the areas we're focused in are the roof. Now, most homes already have a Class A roof, but if you're going to replace your roof at any time, make sure you're using a non-combustible roof, but also the gutters on that roof are just as important, making sure they're non-combustible, having a gutter guard to prevent leaves from getting inside of them. Mesh screening on the vents is really important. Installing a 1/16 to a 1/8 inch non-combustible, corrosion resistant metal mesh over those vents is really a low cost. If you're going to do one thing tonight and take away tonight, tomorrow, go buy mesh screening. You can go to any hardware store. It's very easy to do for most people. It's an affordable but very effective retrofit that one can take. But another one that's fairly easy, but most people don't think about, and that is installing a weather stripping to close the gap around your garage door. Oftentimes around the garage door and the frame of the door itself, there's a gap. So we want you to use a weather stripping that has a greater than 1/8 inch gauge into it, and that is tested to be non-combustible, but it closes that gap so the embers can't penetrate into the garage, igniting whatever you have in your garage, which oftentimes include flammable items. But paired with home hardening is defensible space. This is the removal, or more importantly, the spacing of landscaping. We don't want bare dirt around homes. We want landscaping. We want trees. We want plants. We want color in our yards, but making sure that you're choosing fire-smart landscaping plants that are less likely to burn or not as easily to burn, spacing so that if one does catch on fire, it can't easily move from one plant to the next. I really like to think of the best way to landscape your home is like a park-like setting. You've mowed down the grass, you've limbed up the trees, you've got plants, but they're nice and they're well spaced and they're well maintained. That's what we look for in defensible space. Here's this picture again with a few more defensible space items. And one of those that I want to really focus in here is related to zone 0. This is the first 5 feet around the home. And there's new science behind it. There's new requirements that are being worked on right now that essentially look at reducing anything flammable in that first 5 feet. You can see on the front of this home, again, this is a new home, so it's not, I'm going to show some other pictures of some more realistic modern existing homes, but you can see that they've used rock within the 5 feet around the building, or hardscaping around this home. They still have bark in this picture and in this home, but they've spaced it 5 feet. They still have plants, but again, they've spaced them 5 feet. And so that first 5 feet of removing anything combustible, the commissioner started off tonight with such a great reminder. We don't think about the trash cans, but I've seen so many homes that ignite because the trash can catches on fire first, and then it spreads to the home itself. And so the best to your abilities, try to store those trash cans not right up against the home, but think about other combustible items, keeping it away from the home itself. This is just a quick little image of this new 5 feet zone we're talking about. Again, in this image and in the video, you can see there still are plants, but this is a good one right there, wood decking. When you have a wood fence, it can easily spread right to the home itself. One of the things we saw in the LA fires is one home would catch on fire, and with these flammable pathways, like wood fences or even privacy shrubs, the fire would travel home to home to home. And so removing the 5 foot of wooden fence connected to your home and replacing it with some kind of non-combustible item goes a significant way at protecting your home itself. Now, again, the rules are still being written out for this new requirement. There's still the allowance of trees. There's still the allowance of potted plants and other vegetation. But the goal is to reduce as much flammable items within that first 5 feet as possible. I show this picture as I wrap up on this. This home has plants. This home has trees, but they are spaced. You can see they're not right up against the home. It may be hard to see, but the home itself has a wooden fence along the side of the home. But the piece that connects to the home itself is a metal material, so that even if that wood fence catches on fire, it can't spread the fire right up to the home itself. Here's another, again, beautiful home. They have lots of lush green plants. They have trees, but they've spaced them. They've limbed the branches from the house itself. And so these are the important things we are looking for when we talk about defensible space itself. I'll drop in the chat here as I wrap up a link to a really great website with resources called readyforwildfire.org. But before I do that, I just want to show this picture. This is some of the science. This is the field testing that has gone into defensible space home hardening requirements. In this experiment, and even in this fire photo here, the embers accumulate based on wind dynamics and other components stay within 5 feet of the home itself. And so that's why 5 feet has become this critical number for us. While 100 feet of defensible space is important, that first 5 feet of nothing flammable is so important. You can see this firefighter is not just trying to battle 1 or 2 or 3 or 100 or 400 embers. These are thousands of embers hitting, in this case, an apartment complex all at the same time. Each one of those having the potential to ignite the bark, as we can see in this photo, the plants, and then spread to the home, potentially burning it completely to the ground. And so this defensible space requirements, the home hardening elements, these are all field tested. This is science-based. All of these videos and links to some of the science part will be on the website link that I show here in a moment. But as I wrap up, Assembly member, there are some really great resources at readyforwildfire.org. That's where you can learn more about defensible space, retrofitting your home for home hardening, becoming a Fireways community. And as you heard already from Amy, we've worked hard at the office with the commissioner, with stakeholders like Amy Bach and others to align these mitigations. What the insurance companies want to see line up with what we as the fire officials want to see. They line up with the science and what the researchers want to see. And so wildfire mitigation makes a difference. Our own research has shown and been validated by other researchers that if you have defensible space, if your home is hardened, you have a significantly higher increased chance of your home surviving a wildfire. And so please don't be overwhelmed by the things you may need to do. Start with those vents that I mentioned. Make a list. Piece by piece, we are making a more resilient California, but we can only do that with the help of our community. So, Assemblymember, thank you so much for the time. Again, I'll drop some of those links into the chat, but I appreciate everybody's time this evening.
Well, Chief, this was so informative. I know I was wanting to take screenshots of everything that you were showing us, but we'll have this up on our website and it's on our Facebook so people can go back to those slides and they'll be able to go over that information again. I think we probably have time just for one question, and I know this is complicated and the answer might be longer than we have time for, but we get this question all the time, which is how are the CAL FIRE maps different from the maps that the insurance companies are using? So there's fire hazard maps that CAL FIRE uses, there's fire hazard maps that insurance companies use, and how that's affecting rates. If you maybe have a 30-40 second version, and of course, Amy, if you have a version of this answer.
Yeah,
you're
Amy
welcome to chime
can
in.
validate and fact check me on this. So our maps are related to hazard. They are long-term factors for long-term mitigations, like how we construct homes. And so hazard factors include elements like weather, topography, fire history. These are typically factors that don't change often. And so think of these maps really as a 50-year flood map, a 100-year flood map, looking at the hazard over long periods of time, where insurance companies are using risk modeling. They're using risk factors. The defensible space, the home hardening, all these mitigations we've talked about tonight, those are really important, and those are factors that are included in risk. So our map is hazard versus risk. And again, it may seem like a nuance to most people, but because we're tying long-term mitigations, we're looking at long-term hazard factors, where insurance companies are looking at much shorter-term risk elements, which again then include risk factors like water supply, but even other complications that add to the risk modeling that Amy can chat about. But it's hazard versus risk. It's a long-term score meant for long-term mitigations. But Amy, anything you want to add there?
Please.
I just want to, I will endorse what he just said, because the reality is insurers are not really using, they're not using the CAL FIRE maps. They are using much more, I would say in some ways, like detailed to the property type information, right? So, you know, I like to think about a lot the CAL FIRE maps as being very important for deployment of resources and planning of, you know, for the fire agencies, right? Insurers are not using them, you know. So I know a lot of people are very nervous about it. They think it's going to hurt me. Believe me, the insurers are using a lot more technological tools that are much more micro, is maybe one way of explaining it.
Well, I want to say thank you to both of you. I know that everyone that has joined tonight has found this very valuable. There's also a number of people that helped put us together, put this together this evening, including both of your staffs, Commissioner Lara and his staff, my district office staff who's on the Zoom and has been fielding questions this evening. And it's such a wealth of information. I can tell you that what I've heard from both of you and from the commissioner leaves me feeling more optimistic. I feel like there are things that I can do and that each of us can do to change what is happening for us. Certainly on a policy level, it's the job of the state of California, the legislature, the governor, the commissioner, to make sure that we're doing the right things to create mechanisms in the market to bring insurers back to the state, and it's beginning to work, and I'm heartened by that. But on a very, very personal level, there's things that we can do in our own homes and with our own dollars when it comes to insurance, having the right amount of insurance, getting back, you know, off the FAIR plan into the regular market, and then improving our homes so that they can be more fire resistant. So I want to say thank you to each person who took their time. I know people are out there needing to get back to their dinners and their families and their evenings, so we're not going to go over time, but invite you to rewatch this, as well as to look for the resources that we'll share on our Facebook and our website and in upcoming emails from me. So thank you to all of you, and thank you, Chief, and thank you, Executive Director, for joining us, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon.